Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to our Net Promoter Score webinar today. Today I'll be touching very quickly on the basics of Net Promoter Score for the people that may be a little bit less familiar with that. But we'll be mostly focusing on setting up an advanced workflow for the Net Promoter Score. During the presentation, you can comment and ask any questions in the comment box here below. My colleagues Mark and Sam will respond to your questions immediately using our popular links regarding Net Promoter Score, and they'll be also answering any other questions you have. And if there's some very interesting questions, we'll be answering them at the end of the webinar. I'll be answering those questions for you. You can also click in that little window at the top. You can click on the full screen button at the bottom right in YouTube to get it full screen, so you'll be able to see the slides a little bit better. Okay, let's get started. Yeah, so we're talking about Net Promoter Score, and it's just a very basic question. How likely are you to recommend your company or a product to a colleague or friend? It's a very, very simple question. Let me get back real quick. Just my name is Alexander Dobronte. I'm a managing partner here at CheckMarket. CheckMarket is a kind of a unique position. We have like a very powerful enterprise survey tool, but we also combine that with some professional services. So that makes us rather unique. Okay, we're going to get into the Net Promoter Score now. So we had that basic question, how likely are you to recommend us? And it's on a scale from 0 to 10. And we're going to break those people down that answered that question into 3 groups. They're detractors. Those are the people who answer between 0 and 6. And those are the people who have a very negative view of your company or product or whatever you asked about. And then you've got the people who are answering 7 or 8. Those are considered passives. They're not fans, but they're not against you either. And then you got the promoters, people who give you a 9 or a 10. Those are people who are basically ambassadors of your product. Wait 1 second. Okay. I think I wasn't sharing my screen yet, but now my screen is being shared. So anyway, let's get back to where we were. I think also something that a lot of people make a small mistake in is that the Net Promoter Score is calculated by subtracting the number of promoters minus the percent of detractors, so the percent of promoters minus the percent of detractors. But the Net Promoter Score itself is just a number. It's not a percent. A lot of times you'll see that incorrectly noted, that people will put a percent sign behind the Net Promoter Score. That's wrong. It's just it's a score. It's a number. Okay, let's moving on. So here we break it down. You got the promoters, the passives, and the detractors. And then after the webinar is over, these slides will be available, and then you can go through them at your own pace. Yeah, why is Net Promoter Score so popular? I think it was created in 2003 by Fred Reichheld, and of the Bain and Company, in collaboration with Matrix. And since then, it's just really boomed in popularity. And I think one of the reasons why it's so popular is that it's very easy to understand. You just have this one simple number. A lot of times, market research can seem very complicated with huge Excel sheets. And I think there was a desire by a lot of our customers and market research customers in general to get back down to something much more simpler. And that's what NPS gives you, this one simple score, which is very easy to communicate inside your own company. I think another reason why it's so popular, though, is also because it is deceptively simple for respondents. It seems like a very simple question, but actually it's not, because you're just not asking how satisfied are you in general with our product. You're actually saying, do you stake your reputation on this product or company? And if someone's willing to stake their reputation, it's like, let's say there's a great restaurant nearby, and you would say, oh, you got to go there, it's great, and your friends would go there, and it's terrible, then you would lose a lot of your reputation with them as far as how good you know about restaurants. So risking your reputation is something people don't take lightly, and that's implicit in the question, if you would recommend it or not. And I think that makes it a great, that's one of the reasons why it's so popular. Of course, the fact that it is so simple is also actually one of the criticisms of it, that it's a very, very simple score, so you're probably missing a lot of other information if that's the only thing that you're asking, or if that's the only thing that you're doing. Another difference is you get this NPS score at the end, the promoters minus your detractors, sorry, but actually, it doesn't actually say anything about how many detractors there are, or what is actually the ratio between the two. That's something that's missing from it. Also, yeah, there's going to be some cultural difference in it. For instance, let's say someone in the States, it might answer, they tend to give higher scores, let's say like an 8 or 9 or 10, whereas in Europe, and even it differs by country, tend to give lower scores, meaning the same thing. So let's say sometimes you'll see an American NPS survey here in Europe, and then after someone gives an 8, and then the next question is, why did you only give us an 8? What are we doing wrong? And the European might say, nothing, that's why I gave you an 8. They consider that a very high score. So there are definitely cultural differences. Another difference is if you have a whole bunch of zeros or you have a whole bunch of 6s, there's no distinction in Net Promoter Score for that. It's just everyone is lumped together between 0 and 6. So while its simplicity is what makes it so attractive, it's also a limitation of it. Now, a question that we always get is, what is a good NPS? And when we look at that, we see that the average is a little just above 0, because the NPS number actually goes from minus 100. If everyone gave you a score of 6 or less, you would have a minus 100. If everybody gave you a 9 or 10, you'd be at plus 100. So we see most scores round just above 0. And then there are some extreme examples of companies with great customer loyalty that can even score above 50 to 80. That's extremely rare. Yeah, this is about that cultural difference. I think I already touched on that there really is a cultural difference. If you're going to do NPS, let's say, in different countries, then you are going to have a biased view. And some countries it will be more difficult to get your Net Promoter Score higher than it will be in other countries. That's just a fact, and it's better to concentrate on the Net Promoter Score in each cultural region than trying to compare them across cultural borders. Okay, that was the basics about what the NPS score is, and we also have some slides that go into more detail about the actual basics of it. But what we really want to get into is some more detail here. So one of the things I want to give you some insight into the calculation. So as you can see, if we go back in the score, the passives don't count. We're taking the percent of promoters minus the detractors. So if you've got a large group in the passives area, then they're not hurting you and they're not helping you at all. Another point is that it's actually much harder to take someone from the neutral and bump them up to being a promoter. To get someone to go from a 7 or an 8 into a 9 or 10 is much more difficult than taking someone who's a 6 or a 5 or a 4 and moving them up into your passives. And what's great is when you actually move someone up into your passives and you take them out of your detractors, your NPS is going to go up, because we're normally subtracting your detractors from your promoters. So if we can get some people out of that detractor zone, then your NPS will automatically go up. So and it's also important to create your own baseline. So you have to do your NPS is like a continuous process. You have to always be measuring your NPS, not just like once a year in some kind of classic client satisfaction survey. You should be asking a lot more often. For instance, if you have 1,200 customers, you should take 100 each month and ask them your NPS question. And so that each person only gets asked once a year, but that you have a monthly score that you can compare. And then you should create this baseline and then work on it to improve it, comparing it to your baseline. Don't worry less about what industry averages are, things like that. That can be interesting the first time you do it, but it's much more interesting to create your own baseline and then start working on it from there. And then also you got to get everybody involved in your organization. Your net promoter score is a combination of how somebody feels in total about your company, about the brand, the service they've received. If they've called your call center, whoever they get on the phone, that's for them, that front-facing person that represents your company at that moment. So it could be in management that you're very aware of NPS and you have got all these action plans to build to improve it, but you got to get everybody in your organization involved in improving a net promoter score. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to improve it as much as you think. So yeah, how do you get everybody involved? That's not always such an easy thing. It seems like for a lot of people lower down in your organization, it just may seem like this abstract number, and what does it really mean? So one of the things you really have to do is you have to commit to it as a goal for your business. So you have to communicate to your organization, look, this is an important metric for us, and we're going to be following that metric, and we want all of you to participate. And then they'll say, but yeah, how do I know if what I'm doing is helping? Well, you got to get feedback to all levels. So if you're running an NPS project, make sure that everyone in your company, everyone that you want involved, should be able to follow whatever your real-time net promoter score is at that moment. So that it's almost like you're making it into a game where per department you may have a net promoter score, and then you can actually, like a game, let's say like if we can get our net promoter score above 10, then everyone will get a bottle of champagne. Sometimes that's taken very far, and we have, let's say, even bank clients that, well, they've got different branch offices, and they're calculating the NPS for each branch office, and the manager of each branch is actually, his bonus, or a part of his bonus is actually determined by his net promoter score. Now that takes it pretty far, but just to show how important net promoter is. So taking this sort of gamified approach doesn't have to be like a money value. It could even be just like an honor thing where that, let's say your help desk, all the people in your call center, if you're showing the net promoter score on the screen, and then you just say, okay, our goal this month is to raise it up that much, and if everybody does it, they get a pat on the back. That's very effective. That gamified approach really, really helps to get everybody in the organization involved. Yeah, this is moving on a little bit. I think another reason why Net Promoter Score is important, or reacting to it very quickly, is there's this new power of the customer. We love to control our own marketing messages, but that's becoming more and more difficult as people are able to publish very easily and share on the internet. So you may have this marketing message that you want to get out there, but if someone posts to Facebook a very negative foodie or something, if you have a restaurant, or a negative comment about it, and they start sharing it with their friends, and that spreads out, you're not in control of that message anymore. So by following up very closely on your Net Promoter Score, and especially looking at those detractors, that can really help you get ahead of this. So that's what I'm saying here. Detractors can hurt, and we all know that. It was like back to that restaurant example. We all know that if we go to a restaurant and we have a disappointing experience, we're much more likely to tell a lot of people about our disappointing experience than if we go to a restaurant where we have great service, because we expect good service as the norm, and so people who are unsatisfied are likely to share a lot more. So if you react fast to a negative score, if you react fast to detractors, especially the very low numbers, then you can get ahead of that and stop them from negatively sharing. In fact, you can actually turn a negative experience into a positive experience. If let's say that you're filling in a survey yourself and you give a low score, and an hour later someone contacts you saying, "Oh, we're very disappointed that we weren't able to give you the experience you were expecting," and then you come up with some kind of offer, or you just actually give them an ear and let them express their frustration. That a lot of times will disarm them a little bit and will stop them from negatively sharing. In fact, it can actually turn around that they'll positively share, saying that, yeah, I had a bad experience, but the way that this company handled the bad experience was just great. So actually, you can turn a negative into a positive. So yeah, how do we get rid? So the best way to improve our NPS, or the easiest way, the low-hanging fruit in your NPS, is to reduce your detractors, since they count mostly your score. If we can move them up to passives, then your score is going to go up. So how do we do that? Well, one of the first things you have to do is make sure that you're not only asking that promoter score, but that you're asking follow-up questions. So if someone gives you a very low score, then you want to ask them, we're sad that you, or disappointed we didn't give you the right service and that you gave us a low score. Can you tell us what it was that disappointed you, because we'd love to do something about it and improve our service. And also the way you talk in your survey, that'll depend on your sector or your industry, how you want to have, how your voice, what kind of voice you want to have. But make sure that you keep the same voice throughout the survey. And now I think there's been a trend to more familiar voice in surveys. So not this strict from saying you gave us an 8, why? No, say, well, we're disappointed we gave an 8, or I mean an 8, you gave us a 5. What can we do to improve that? We'd love to improve our service. And people will be also then coming back to, they'll be much more open and honest, because in a way this is a two-way communication. Most marketing messages, or a lot of our communication, comes from the company, boom, against the customer. If you surveying done right is actually a two-way street. You're going to get feedback from your customers. Now, of course, if you get that feedback, you have to do something with it, because then if you get negative feedback and you don't do anything with it, then it's actually even worse. And so after you've got that open question and you've probed why are they giving you these lower scores, then don't wait. Don't like say, okay, next month we're going to analyze the results of month -1, and we're going to see, oh look, we've got so many people who are unsatisfied. No, you've got to, it's got to be much more real time than that. You've got this small window of opportunity after someone has given you a low score to win them back. So you have to set up some kind of notification system so that when there's a low score, that the right people get that feedback right away. And by the right people, some of our clients, let's say they've got maybe enterprise customers, let's say in a B2B environment, enterprise customers, mid-sized companies, and then they've got like consumers, or let's say small customers. So you might have a differentiated approach where you might say, okay, let's say if it's just a low-end customer, then what we're going to do is we're going to just have a notification go back to our call center, and someone will call them up with some kind of offer. If it's a mid-range customer, they may have an account manager in your company. That person should be notified as soon as that low score comes in, so that they can contact the customer and find out right away what's going on and how to get them back. If it's an enterprise customer, sometimes then you can even send a mobile text message to the account manager, and maybe even someone from management should get a mail saying that this customer was unsatisfied. That's what I mean by the right people getting notifications. And then you have to do something with it. I already mentioned that. You have to, it's a continuous process of measuring NPS, and if you see a line, there's these common complaints of everyone saying the same thing, then attack those common issues right away. And then if you're measuring every month or every week or whatever, then you're going to see right away your NPS start to go up. And then get back to detractors quickly with some kind of offer to save them. We all know it's a lot cheaper to keep a customer than it is to do a client acquisition or customer acquisition. And then this is something a lot of people are, we've got customers who are doing a good job on that detractor end. But now I think there's also a trend saying, wait a minute, these promoters, they're actually valuable. You can almost put like a monetary value on your promoters. Your promoters, people giving you 9 and 10s, are ambassadors. They're people saying, hey, you're looking for a restaurant, you've got to try this place. It's absolutely fabulous. The service is great. The food is great. Those are ambassadors. So what we're seeing customers start to do now is let's see if we can use those promoters. Give them the tools to share. If someone gives you a 9 or 10, then encourage them to share that on Facebook. Try to get them to some kind of community, or ask them to promote them to send pictures of them using your products. Try to make them make YouTube videos, or try to get them to post things on Facebook about how great your product is. Get them in. If you want to, you can also, for instance, if you've got new beta products or trial products, get them involved. Send them a package of some new products and ask them what they think of it. They're more likely to give you constructive feedback because they're ambassadors, and you'll actually, by doing that, you'll strengthen your relationship with your promoters, and what you need to get the word out, because because they're risking their reputation, they're saying how great you are is worth much more than any kind of advertising you could do yourself. Okay, so now we're going to get down into some of the nitty-gritty. How do you set up this automated NPS workflow? So I got this chart up here, this flow. It's a little bit complicated, so I'm gonna break it down into a little bit simpler steps. So when someone comes to us, or when we're working with our customers, we talk about these 4 stages of NPS, and we're always talking about, oh yeah, that customer's in stage 2, that customer's in stage 3, and we of course want to move them all the way up to the stage 4. So you have to see, when I show the different stages, you can try and see at what stage are you in right now. So stage one is everyone else is asking this NPS question. I better ask it too, and so they are sending out a survey. They are getting the results back from the survey, and they're saying, oh look, we know what our NPS score is. Now great, and then they basically stop there, and they may track it over time and hope somehow it improves, but they're not actively doing any kind of actions about it, and we call that stage one. Then if I move on, then there's this stage two, where we're actually going to get alerts when somebody gives a low score between 0 and 6, or you can actually differentiate that, let's say between 0 and 4, if you have a lot of, if you're saying huge volumes. Then you're going to get some alerts back into your company, like I said, the account manager or call center, to try and get that detractor back online. That's what with the basic alerts. Now what happens is a lot of people are in this stage right now. And what happens is these alerts are coming back, but it's sort of unstructured. So the account manager is getting a notification, your call centers are getting notifications, and there's some open text in there about why the people weren't happy. But at the management level, there's something missing in how many detractors are we getting feedback from, what incentives are we giving them, what is working in the incentives, and what are like the categories, the major issues, those common issues I talked about. How do we get that out of that plain text answer that people gave and into some kind of structured reporting that management can actually do something with? And so the biggest step is actually getting from stage two up to stage three. So I'm going to add stage three now, and you'll see the alerts is going to sort of disappear there, and something's going to come in its place. So what happens is that when you want to go to stage three, you have to create a follow-up team inside your company, an NPS follow-up team. And what's going to happen is when there's a detractor, then or a percentage of your detractors, you can choose how you do it if you have high volume. Then what you're going to do is you're going to actually send a survey, like a follow-up form, to the follow-up team. So there's a detractor, and right away a notification is sent to the follow-up team, and the follow-up team will actually fill in their own survey. Now all the data from the first detractor is also pumped over into it, and then the follow-up team is going to answer some important questions. They're going to track their calling. So they're going to say, okay, I tried to call the person, I was successful at this time, or I'm going to call back later. That way your team can actually share the workload, so no one's calling the same person twice. You can see exactly how many open follow-ups there are still to be done, how many closed follow-ups there are still to be done, and then they're going to try to characterize or put into categories what the complaints were. So you're not going to ask your customers. It's not a good idea to put, when you're asking your customer what could we do better or what was wrong, you don't want to say bad service, late delivery. Don't put words in their mouth. Leave that open. But for your follow-up team, there you want to be as specific as possible so we can get closed answers. So there you would put late delivery, product was damaged, whatever. You're going to put specific items into that list. And of course, you're going to have an other box. And then actually over time, you have to check the other box. And if there are some reoccurring items in there, then you'll make those into fixed items in the follow-up, in the fixed form, in the fixed categories there. And then you're going to also use that you might try some different A/B testing with incentives. So let's say like you're a telecom and you have a detractor, then you may come back to them with an offer saying, okay, we can give you 1,000 minutes or 1,000 text messages for free next month, or you may come back with if you commit now to a 2-year deal, then you'll get $10 off a month, or whatever kind of incentive, and you can actually track which incentives work the best, because the people in the follow-up team are going to say, okay, we gave this offer and this was the result. And from that follow-up team, you're going to get very, very structured data about your detractors. And then that data will come back in dashboards or in report form back to the company, back to management, so that management can look at that data on a very active basis, at least monthly, if not faster than that, and then take action to improve the categories where the most complaints are coming in. That is stage 3, and it's very, very important to get to this stage as quickly as possible. A lot of people start in that stage 2 with their alerts, but you'll see that structured data from the follow-up team really, really improves the quality of data that you're going to be, or because we've all got lots of data these days, but it's the quality of information that's going to be flowing back to management. And then we're going to move to the last stage, stage 4. And stage 4 is going to add a layer at the top here for the company. And we're calling it big data. That it's probably going to be some kind of business intelligence software like SAP or Microsoft Dynamics or HADOP implementation, where you're going to be crunching all these different. We've got lots of different information flows coming into our company. It could be, let's say the survey notifications coming back in or survey data coming back in about someone being a tractor. It could be, back to that telecom example, it could be that person X churns and switches over to another telecom provider, and then you're going to these business intelligence systems will analyze their sort of the social graph, to use like a Facebook term, of who are they calling the most, and if the more calls they're making to someone or the longer they're talking, let's say, that will thicken or make the connection more important. And when then if we see, okay, this person fell, person X fell, and they're talking a lot to person Y, that could mean that person Y is at risk also to churn. So these business intelligence systems are identifying that. Now there could be two sources here. You could be getting back a survey saying that person X is at risk, so person Y might also be at risk. But it could also be that based on some other parameters, you think that person Y is at risk, for instance, because person X left. Then you could actually send out a survey as a trigger based on that at-risk identification in your business intelligence software. Send out an invitation to them sending them an NPS survey, and then based on the feedback, if they do give a detractor score, then the identification was correct. So that's like a positive feedback mechanism for the business intelligence software to know, okay, this is this identification is working, and then that could affect their churn coefficient or churn risk coefficient, and then you could, so to improve the business intelligence software. And then we're going to do something with that data. So based on their profile, like I was saying, you might offer them an automated system, just not waiting for the company follow-up team, because you may have large volume and not be screening every single person with the follow-up team. But then you may have an automated system where you say, okay, based on their profile, they send a lot of messages. Let's send them that deal for the 1,000 mails. Or let's try and lock them down into a 2-year package with some kind of great offer now to stop them from detracting. Because what do we see is that tends to flow. So if you've got detractors, then they're going to be telling their friends, oh, I left there and I got this great deal somewhere else, and it's almost like a cascading disappearance. So if we can put a stick in front of that and stop that person from detracting, we're probably saving other detractors at the same time. And then also from that big data, then we have identified some promoters. Then also here, that I already mentioned how to do that, then get them involved in some kind of community, get them involved in some kind of beta software work or new products, have them try it out, have them taste it, encourage them to share pictures of your product on Instagram or whatever, give them the tools to be promoters and to be your ambassador and to share. So that's the last stage of NPS, where you've got the full circle. The full workflow is actually a full diagram of the surveys going out, getting information, using that information to improve your services so you'll have less detractors in the future, and then trying to stop those detractors from churning, and then identifying promoters and using them. That is the end stage of a Net Promoter Score program, where that you should try to get to. Yeah, so in the slides, which will be available afterwards, then some of the things I mentioned are listed here, and you'll be able to review those. I didn't want to get them on the other screen because otherwise it would have been too busy over there. And then, something that's you could always, it's interesting, we have a lot of experience doing NPS research. For instance, we have a blog article about the basics of NPS, and it's had over 110,000 people have already read it on our website. And because of our experience, we have some market research experts that can help you set up this program. And as I mentioned, something that makes CheckMarket unique is that we have this software platform tool. So everything I've shown all the way up to stage 4 can actually be done with our tool as it is, without having any kind of custom work done. You can already set up the notifications, dashboards. We have an API to integrate with your applications. We have everything in place to help you with that. And if you say, oh, you want us to, let's say, manage that project, that's something that we can definitely do to help you manage that the project and help set it up for you. And then once it's automated and running, then it's just something that you have to monitor yourselves, and that's something that we can definitely help you with. Yeah, so in conclusion, I think it's important to definitely get everybody involved, everyone in your organization involved. That's absolutely key to actually to succeeding. And then use your own baseline. Don't worry so much about it's not so important what your score is now. I mean, it's not so important what your score is compared to other people, but what is your score now, and how are you going to improve it? And identifying those complaints that are, or the issues that your customers are having that are giving you, if they're giving you a low NPS score, identify those and then improve it, and watch your NPS, your own NPS score continue. And then you have to automate this. If you're going to say, okay, well, we're going to just run it on a survey platform, and then every once in a while we'll go check what the results are, then that works the first few weeks, and then it's taking too many man hours, and it's going to fall apart, that system. So you have to automate the entire workflow. That, first of all, that's a huge savings in the long run, automating the workflow, and then also it's going to save you a lot of man hours and a lot of cost in the long run. And then watch your customer satisfaction and loyalty rise through the system. And at our website you can also read the whole story in our blog. We've got several articles on this. We also have a sample survey you can try out yourself just to see what an NPS survey looks like. And then we also have some examples of good NPS results. So where you don't want to only just show that one number, but you want to show the spread, because I was saying that's one of the weaknesses in your reporting. You can actually tackle that by having reports where you show not only the score, but you actually show also the spread. So how many detractors do we have? How many neutrals people do we have? And how many promoters do we have? And if you want on our site, you just sign up for free, and you can try to create your own free NPS survey. So let me see if there's any questions that some people have had during the show that we might want to handle here at the end. Let's see. I can also show you a couple examples since we have some time left over. Give me a second here. Now I can show you what a classic NPS survey looks like. So we might ask, how satisfied are you in general? And then we're going to ask the classic, what is a classic question? The classic question, like here it says, how would you recommend our company? But you can also put a product here. In fact, if you're going to get really deeply into NPS, you might want to ask for different products or your brand, and then you can say to a colleague or a friend. It depends. If you're talking about a restaurant or something specific, you may not always have a colleague or friend. You could even say, let's say if you're talking about diapers, you might ask, how likely are you to recommend our company to another mother? So that can also be a way of this question is not fixed in place as exactly how you're going to ask it. Then here you've got that question. So depending on what their score is, you're going to want to actively ask. Okay, you gave a score out of, let's say you gave here a 3. It says what improvements could we make to get you back to a closer score. So that's the open question that I talked about earlier. And then also on the opposite end, if someone is giving you a high score, then you may also say, well, why? Because you may want to try to reproduce whatever it is why that person's giving you a 9 or 10. You would like to reproduce that, obviously, with as many customers or clients as possible. So don't only ask that open question to the people, the detractors. Also ask that a positive question to the promoters to find out what it is that they love so much about your company or product. And then if you want to take that even a step further, you can actually ask, for instance, can we use your comments? For instance, in an advertisement or in a testimonial on your website, and then you actually re-show the question, their response, so they can judge it and say, oh yeah, I'm willing to let you guys use that. That's great if you can get that too, and it doesn't really cost you anything in the survey just to ask. And then you may have, yeah, what improvements could we make? And let's say you've got some different areas in your company. You're looking for some feedback. For instance, like, yeah, if we could work on this area, that area, that area. Prioritizing your improvements. You can ask the people, the detractors, or even the promoters, what areas do you think you'd like us to work on first? Yeah, and then this is for your follow-up team. If you're in stage 3 or 4, then you're going to want to, you want to talk to them. But some people don't like to be bothered, so we always put a question there asking, yeah, can we call you to talk about your responses? And then if they say yes, then you can ask them for their phone number and, like, do they prefer to be called and talked to during the day or evening? You'll also see later on, if you create a free account in our system, or if you already have an account with us, you can go look at our templates, and then the surveys I'm showing here are available in our templates. And I know one of the questions that I see here was, yeah, how do you get people to share? Well, in the survey, you can like I said, you can do it through, after you've identified them as a promoter in your own system. You can actually contact them more often with offers, with promotional schemes, like, give them tell them to take pictures of your product and put it online. That's something that's ongoing once you've identified a promoter. It's not a one-time thing. But let's say just in the survey itself, you can even, let's say, on the thank you page, have a differentiated thank you page, obviously for detractors and for promoters. And on the promoters, well, if they've given you a positive comment, then use that positive comment that they gave. They were already maybe willing to use it as testimonial. Even if they're not, they may be willing to share it. So encourage them to share just right on the thank you page. And that's something a common mistake that I see in a lot of surveys is that people don't do enough with the thank you page. So you've got a customer or someone you're interested in. You've got them far enough, they've taken your entire survey, and a lot of times the thank you page is just this sort of end point where all they can do is basically close the tab, or if on their phone, close the window and go back to whatever else they were doing. You don't give them a chance to go anywhere. So let's say after your thank you page, you could at least lead them back. You can put a link back to your site, or you may have some interesting offer you want to put there, or you may want to give them some kind of information about something they may not know about your company. But give them somewhere to go. Your Facebook page, give them some kind of target to go to at the thank you page, because you've got their attention at this moment. Use it. So here, obviously, you would make sure that you would only give these sharing tools in the survey themselves only to the promoters, and make sure you don't just stop there. Make sure that once you've identified the promoters, that you keep communicating with them, make them feel special. They are valuable to you. They're your ambassadors, and make them feel special, and keep contacting them. Don't just leave it as at this thank you page. Yeah, I think I already touched on that. Yeah, then more specifically, how it actually works in our system is that we're setting up a notification. This is like a stage 2 notification here. What we're doing is we create a notification, and you see the name here, low net promoter score, action required. That's the name of the alert. And then we're going to say, okay, look, when these conditions are met. So like when the question, the net promoter score question is less than a 7, because a 0 to 6 is a detractor, then we're going to send an email to whoever is responsible for the net promoter program. That can also be a variable in our system. Like I said, if you've got account managers, you may in the metadata, when you're adding customers to our system, you can have like a custom field, which would be, let's say, account manager name, and then another field that's account manager email address, and then you can, in the to field here, just put that variable down for the custom field that contains the account manager's email address, so that no matter who answers the survey, always the account manager will get the mail. And you can actually have more than one recipient getting this stage two mail. And then the subject line of the mail, and then the body of the mail. Yeah, you'll see that in our templates, we put some basic information down here. So you might want to say describe why they should contact them, and then you can even say, for instance, that open question. You can put a variable in here with that open question and with their NPS score, so that they don't have to so that you don't have to click into the results to go look at what their answers were. Stick them right in the mail so that you can handle it quicker. And then this is the kind of mail that you might receive with the that you would receive with the notification, the stage 2 notification. Let me read some questions here, so give me a second. I mean, there are standard Net Promoter Scores available. You can from Sat Matrix, the people who made NPS, they have a lot of data for different countries, different sectors that they have, um, and I've seen people using those numbers, and it's only valuable basically in the beginning, and they're expensive to get, and I doubt their value sometimes. It's much more interesting to get a baseline measurement of your own NPS, and then that just gives you where you are now, and then try to improve on that. Um, then then to let me look a little bit further. Some of the other questions here, and you'll see they really differ so much by sector, by location. Um, that let's say like for gasoline stations or something. I mean, people have a totally different mindset about what kind of score they would give there than for a high-end restaurant or something. So just basically get your own NPS and then start working on actions to improve it and monitor it. Get everybody involved. Use dashboards to display it. Let me see what else. How would you recommend aggregating customer feedback from various surveys we are doing throughout the company to determine top trending issues? Yeah, that's the follow-up. That's the follow-up survey. So you've got these different customer feedback surveys that are running. A lot of them are transactional. A long time ago, people had this system where that you had like once a year a classic client satisfaction survey that you sent out, and then you gathered the data for a month, and then you spend a month analyzing it, and then there was a presentation of the results to management, and these are the key points that have been identified. Let's work on those, and next year we'll measure it again. Those days are gone. What we're seeing now is really these kind of transactional touch point surveys, which means every time that there's some kind of that you have a touch point with your customer, you want to ask them some specific questions about that contact. And of course, this is going to be all different kinds of surveys. Now, one thing to do is when you're asking different questions in surveys is, like, let's say in our system, you can give each question like a data label. So if the same question is in one survey is question 14, in another survey it may be question 6, then if they've got the same data label, you'll be able to aggregate that data from those two questions together to get an idea of what the total score is. And then the feedback from that is going to be funneled through a follow-up team. Definitely, if you've got multiple surveys going, you're going to have a follow-up team, and they're going to bundle those results into structured data by filling in the follow-up surveys, which may go about multiple surveys, and then funneling that data back into with reports. So that way you can drill down, okay, at each survey, you can drill down into your level, and then you're going to get some other issues through the follow-up team. Let's say if you've got multiple surveys, you may add an extra question to the follow-up survey, which would be pre-filled based on the notification, saying, okay, this follow-up has to do with survey X, and then the next person that they're going to call is going to be about survey Y. They don't even have to fill that in. The question is that which survey they're coming from is basically metadata for the follow-up team, and then the data is being aggregated gated together, and I think that's a really good way to do that. Okay, let's see if there are some more extra questions here. Yeah, there's a good question. I mean, how do you determine what feedback to focus on to improve your product that will have the biggest positive impact on your NPS score? So the easiest way to have a positive impact on your NPS score is to move your detractors up from a 6 into a 7 or 8. If you do that, then your promoters will count a lot more. And by removing detractors, remember your detractors are the ones sharing a lot of negative messaging about you. So by getting them up to a 6 or 7, at least we're getting a little bit quieter, so to speak, and it will improve your NPS score the most. And how do you determine what feedback to focus on? That is a good follow-up question that promotes sharing, so that you're using the right tone of voice in that follow-up question, saying, what can we do to help you? What can we do to make you more satisfied with us? And then using your follow-up team to get that information back to the people that it matters. So, for instance, if they're saying that the help desk is not helping, let's say they're impolite or they're rushed. It could be we've seen that before, that in call centers, a lot of times the metrics that people are being judged on there is number of calls per day or number of minutes per customer. They have to get those numbers down. yeah, that is not going to help your NPS score. What should be a metric for your help desk people should be the satisfaction after each call. A great example is I can't think of the name of it now. Is is putting up like a dashboard in the call center literally, and after every phone call, when someone hangs up, then you'll see, okay, did that person get a survey recently? They did not. You'll send them out a satisfaction survey just about their recent phone call that they just had, with their customer rep, and then get that, and then as soon as they fill in the survey, get a notification right back to that worker, anonymous, made anonymous, so that they see, oh yeah, okay, today this was the feedback I was getting from my customers. And we even have customers who will make a dashboard, put it up on some LCD screens in the office, showing, let's say, like the top 5 people of the day, the top 5 people in the call center with the highest satisfaction, and then stop making bonuses about how many calls someone is handling, or how many, how few, this person's doing great, they only spend a minute and a half per person on the phone, and instead have the metric be, oh, look, this person's getting, put on the top of the screen the top 5 of the day. Then it's a positive message. You're not, sometimes people with the top 5 and the bottom 5 of the day, I think that's the wrong thing to do, because the bottom 5 is a negative thing. You want to promote the top 5 people in your help center, not talk about the people who are getting low scores, and then see, okay, what are they doing different from the other people? In fact, if you've got someone who's consistently scoring high, and you've got other people scoring consistently low, have them listen in on the calls of the person scoring consistently high in customer satisfaction, so that they hear how it's done, and try to get that person to write it down even, and give trainings about it. And then that will tone. So using your it might be a net promoter score. What's your net promoter score of the whole department? You can actually make the bonuses about that up on those screens, and people are watching that in real time. That's the gamification we talked about. And if you're from the follow-up team, they've identified that the problem is with your call center, then gets them back some real-time feedback about the NPS score, and then in that gamification, people love scoring higher and higher, and then that will help to improve your NPS dramatically. I'm looking at some of the questions. Let me see for a second here. I know. I remember now. One of the examples I wanted to give was actually from Zappos, which is world renowned for their great customer support. And there was a story once about someone who called into Zappos, and it was someone who was getting married, and they were in Las Vegas getting married, and the woman had forgotten her shoes for her wedding dress back at home, and she went to the Zappos website, and those shoes were not available anymore. They weren't there, and so she called the hotline saying, "Oh, are you sure those shoes may be somewhere hidden?" And the person on the phone said, "No, I'm sorry, they're not available." And then she explained the whole story about how she was getting married, and what actually happened is the person from Zappos is located just outside Las Vegas, and that the person from the call center got permission to actually go to a local shoe store where they knew that shoe was still available, and they bought the shoes. They went to the hotel of the person that was getting married, and they put a box there from Zappos, with Zappos from Love, have a great wedding and a great life. And of course, that message got shared so many times that I'm even sharing it now, like 2 years later, which shows what great customer support can do. So. And that person is now obviously going to be a great customer for Zappos moving forward, and is also going to be a promoter sharing that story. And then someone has a good comment here that of a benchmark, let's say, of other competitors can really wake up management to get on board to the program. So yeah, if you need like some kind of tool, let's say they're not convinced that an NPS program will be meaningful, then if you've got a benchmark saying, look, all these other companies are scoring a lot higher than we are, that could be something that could help. I think there's also I think another misunderstanding is that a lot of people have this thing where everyone is measuring their NPS, so they're measuring NPS. But measuring NPS, that's not even stage one. That's like stage zero. We don't even talk about that here. Stage zero of just measuring it because everyone else is measuring it. Then if you go with that story to management, we should measure NPS score to see how we compare. Then that's not a moving story. But if you talk to your management about the whole program, that we're not just measuring it here. We're identifying weaknesses in our company through this program, which will help us not only to improve this NPS score, because improving the NPS score is not it's a means to an end. The end is actually having people love your company and selling a lot of product, and that is the end. That your NPS score is just measuring that, and you can actually gamify the score. Like if you just say, okay, we're not really measuring our, if you move, like, when I said in the beginning about just moving your detractors in the beginning up to passives, that's gamifying your score, because it's great to do that, because they're sharing and they're the ones who are hurting you the most. You move them out to passives, but once you've gotten that low-hanging fruit out of the way, the next thing is, okay, how are we going to move passives up to promoters? And when you actually do that, then, for instance, if you've got a high-quality product, like Apple, of course, always scores consistently very, very high in NPS. But what does that actually translate to is that basically their customers don't care about their pricing. I mean, they ask much, much more money for their phones than anybody else does, because people have a great image of Apple. Then they're willing to spend that extra money because the product is great, the service is great. So then you don't have to worry about pricing as much. Where there's a lot of pricing pressure, is probably because there's not enough product differentiation. And so by the NPS score itself is just a means to an end. It's a way of measuring how much people really feel about you, with this very simple question of asking them to risk everything about it. So I think if you really go to management and not say we need to measure NPS, but we need to set up a program to identify weaknesses so we can improve our bottom line, then you're coming with a compelling message that will get them on board. And that benchmark is, I think, maybe less important to be able to do that. Let me see if I've got another slide here, because we're going to be rounding off pretty soon. If there are questions I didn't ask, it's difficult to talk and read all the questions at the same time. We'll be answering them here in the comments, in the coming hour or so. And then if there's some very specific questions you have, you can always contact us, and either Mark, Sam, or myself will be glad to get back to you about those very specific questions. Let me see if I've got another slide here that I'd like to share. Yeah, here's then what the results would look like. Sort of respondent report that comes out of our system. That, for instance, that was linked from the previous slide in the mail. When you click on that, then you see right away, okay, what was their score? Were they a detractor or a promoter? Normally in your follow-up, they're going to be detractors, and some of the information about see what improvements do they have, so they can see that right away before contacting them. And all of this information is then, of course, taken right automatically into the data from the follow-up, so that it's all nicely structured to go onto management. I can show you real quick an example of a Net Promoter Score follow-up survey. So here we'll see some information about, okay, what score did they give? Let's look at their individual results, and then here you might have a question, and all of this is available in our basic in our templates, which you can try out for free by creating an account, or if you already have an account, of course, you can take a look at the templates anytime you want. So you can ask who's doing the follow-up here. A lot of times these surveys they're just templates. You're going to change them around to suit your needs. Then the next question is going to be, okay, when did you try to call them? Then, for instance, the time of the call. Now, make sure that you have, in this survey, as the follow-up survey specifically, and basically in all surveys, we really encourage you to have as few open fields as possible. So let's say if you have here, instead of the date field being a structured field like it is here, or the time of the call attempt, if you make an open field, people might type in 3. They might type in 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. They might type in 2:55. They might type in around 3 or just before 3. That's all unstructured data, which makes it very difficult to do anything with. Then also the result of the follow-up attempt. Let's say here we've got, okay, we know there was a successful call. If we do a cross between the successful call and the time of the call attempt, we can create a nice bar graph that shows when is the best time for us to be calling out, because when do we have the most success calling out. If those fields are not structured, are not closed questions, then you're going to have a much harder time to get that kind of information. So make sure you use as many closed questions as possible in all your surveys, and especially in a follow-up project like this. And then, yeah, see, here's that basic thing with the root cause. So you're asking them, what is the root cause of your issue? And then you probably have some idea of what they might be. In the beginning, it'll be a very short list. Make sure that you always add another option to the bottom of that, so that issues that you have not identified yet, that the follow people can actually write it down in there, and then you should have them looking at their results every once in a while, let's say once a week. In the beginning, maybe you might do it quite frequently to see, okay, do we have some causes that we hadn't thought of ourselves, and then you'll move them up into the fixed options, and then so that the other field is used less and less, because we don't like open text fields. We like closed things so we can, much easier for reporting. And then here, we're going to also branch automatically based on the metadata. We already know what their score gave. So we're going to see, okay, what are their main reasons for being a detractor. These are also fixed categories. Also with always another option should always be made available in case some categories haven't been identified. Make sure that your follow-up team knows to not go too quickly to the other option box if one of the other categories fits. That's something basically you have to sort of work with your team and develop that about when are we going to go to the other box, how, when is our differentiation enough to do that. Then the next question is basically the same thing, but for the satisfy. If you've got promoters, if you're doing follow-up of promoters, you may want to do like a small follow-up of promoters just to see, mostly to identify what it is about your project that they like so much. So we've sort of been looking a lot in today's webinar at the negative aspects here, but I think a lot some of the people even that are in stage 4 are not doing enough with the promoters. So you've got this great follow-up, you're attacking the detractors like crazy, but let's find out, let's learn from our promoters. They're going to give you the best information. What is it that you like so much about us? And then if you're only asking that, you're not looking at it very often, that's not great. You should really also be looking at your promoters, at least a percentage of them. You don't have to be doing 100% of your promoters. You could do like a 10% random look at your promoters to see, okay, what is it that we like so much about it? And then get that also back to management so that they know, okay, look, this is the kind of experience we need to make sure all of our other customers are also having. So even if you're in stage 4, your work is probably not finished yet. And then you always have an open field in every survey that you do. Make sure that your customers, your follow-up people, everyone has a chance to put something down that's not structured. I know that sounds as opposite of what I said before, but then you're not going to look at that as often, but it's great. You need to have it in there. So here are just some other tips. There's also in the slides, which will be made available as soon as we're done, because we're just got about 2 minutes left here, and then we're going to be signing off. So and make sure that tracking the results of your outreach is important. What percent of our detractors, what percent of our promoters are we reaching out to? What time of day are we having the best results? Someone will have to be managing that process. And then also like if you are giving incentives, also check which incentives that the feedback people feel is working the best. If you're doing like A/B testing where you're saying, like I said, like 1,000 SMSs or 10% off on a 2-year subscription deal, try to track which of those is working the best. And you can already get feedback from your follow-up team when they're giving those offers. They may hear if someone's saying, that's not so interesting, or you'll get feedback, and then make sure that you give them some kind of area that they can talk about that. And then make sure that you when you're doing the Net Promoter Score project like this, you have to do something with results, because if you're contacting people and you're giving them that ear and you're listening to them, then if you do then you have to do something with the results, because now you've basically promised that you're going to do something with the results. So you have to do something with the results. Okay, let me see. Yeah, then if I go back to the slide, there's someone else who says that they are doing all that, but they're getting feedback from other areas. That was something that I was touching on. That is the stage 4. Let me go back up to the diagram here for a second. That is this top left big data. Oh, Top like big data. See, I mentioned here you've got lots of data streams. So your survey information is just a data stream. That's why that's why a lot of people are working with us now on this. Is that because we have a platform with a strong API. If you work with some kind of external office, then their data is in their platform, not in your platform. So if you do it with us or you do it with somebody else, make sure that the data is like a data stream that's coming back into your business intelligence software. That's an absolute must, because you've got lots of data streams. I was talking about you've got that, you've got some kind of churn identification algorithm running that's applying, churn coefficient, risk coefficients to each of your customers. And the surveys that you're sending out is just another one of those streams that could affect that coefficient. Or, like I said, could be used, like I say here, as output. You may, if something has been identified as a churn identification, a certain percentage of those at-risk customers, or what the business intelligence software has identified as at-risk customers, you can actually send them an NPS survey if they haven't received one. And you don't want to over ask people, but if they haven't received one recently, send them out one, and then use the results as a feedback mechanism to check, is the algorithm that we're running, the at-risk coefficient that we've applied in our business intelligence software, is that coefficient accurate? You can also use a survey for that. So indeed, in these days of big data, companies want all those data streams to be coming in to their SAP or whatever kind of hat-up implementation that they're using to be able to make good business decisions. So I think we're at the end of the hour now, so I'm going to wrap it up here. As I said, the slides, we're going to be making them available in a few minutes on this page, and you can keep chatting with Mark and Sam in the comments below. They'll be answering questions for a little while longer, and if you have any specific questions, feel free to contact us, and we'll be glad to talk you through it. Okay, it's been great being with you today. And I hope to be talking to a lot of you soon. And thank you very much for your time. I know how precious it is to everyone that was listening in today. Okay, bye.